In a world where every step is choreographed, every smile measured by public relations experts, and every breath bound by the invisible chains of constitutional duty, true freedom is the ultimate royal luxury. For centuries, the British sovereign has traded personal autonomy for institutional survival. Yet, look closely at the modern tapestry of the House of Windsor. There is one figure who moves through the grand palaces not as a prisoner of her bloodline, but as a master of her own destiny. She holds no royal title. She takes no money from the taxpayer. She does not curtsy to the old ghosts of the court. Yet, she is arguably one of the most vital, trusted, and captivating figures in the modern history of the British monarchy. This is the story of Zara Tindall. From the very second she drew her first breath, the Queen's eldest granddaughter was earmarked for an entirely untraditional royal life. The first subversion of custom came not from a decree, but from her name. Not Elizabeth, not Victoria, not Mary. Her uncle, the then Prince Charles, looked at the newborn and imaginatively suggested Zara, an exotic, unroyal name of Greek and Arabic origin, meaning bright as the dawn. It was a poetic, almost prophetic choice. By giving her an unusual name, her parents laid down a quiet, revolutionary marker. This child would not be a mere carbon copy of the princesses who came before her. She was designed to be a civilian within the palace gates. To understand the woman Zara Tindall is today, one must understand a profound sacrifice, masquerading as a legal technicality. According to the strict rules of the British monarchy, royal titles flow exclusively through the male line. As the daughter of Princess Anne, Zara was not automatically entitled to be a princess. However, Queen Elizabeth II, fiercely fond of her first granddaughter, offered to step in. A stroke of the royal pen could have granted Zara the style of Her Royal Highness and the lifelong title of princess. The world waited for the announcement, but it never came. It was a moment of extraordinary foresight. Princess Anne, having lived under the blistering, unforgiving glare of the global media since her teenage years, looked at the golden cage of royal life and chose to lock the door from the outside for her children. Anne and her husband, Captain Mark Phillips, said no to the Queen. No titles, no HRH, no official status. At the time, society viewed it as a snub, a bizarre rejection of prestige, but in reality, it was the greatest gift a royal mother could ever give her daughter. It relieved Zara of the crushing burden of constitutional representation before she could even walk. The paradox of the crown is that its highest honors are often its heaviest chains. While her cousins were groomed for a life of curtsying, public scrutiny, and ceremonial confinement, Zara was granted the ultimate royal anomaly: anonymity. She grew up on the rural, wind-swept acres of Gatcombe Park in Gloucestershire. She did not live in a palace guarded by soldiers in bearskin hats. She lived in a country house surrounded by mud, dogs, and horses. She was allowed to skin her knees, to fall from trees, to fail, and to find her own voice away from the flashbulbs. By stripping away the title of princess, Anne ensured that Zara would have to build an identity based entirely on what she did, rather than who she was. The warm, golden sunlight of southern England fades, replaced by the moody, slate-gray skies of the Scottish Highlands. The camera pans over a bleak, mist-shrouded coastline where the North Sea crashes violently against jagged rocks. The wind howls fiercely through barren trees. For generations, the default education for a child of the British royal family was one of sheltered privilege tutors behind palace gates, or Gentile, exclusive boarding schools in the soft, rolling hills of the South. But Princess Anne had no intention of raising a fragile orchid. She wanted an oak tree. To the shock of many traditionalists at court, Zara was sent away from her comfortable Gloucestershire home to Gordonstoun, a notoriously tough, Spartan boarding school in the remote north of Scotland. It was an institution built on a singular, uncompromising philosophy: that true character is forged through physical hardship, cold showers, and a refusal to give in to the elements. The choice of Gordonstoun carried heavy historical baggage. Decades earlier, King Charles III had famously detested his time here, describing the school as colditz in kilts, a miserable prison that crushed his sensitive, creative spirit. But where a poet might wither, an athlete thrives. Princess Anne recognized that her daughter possessed a raw, boisterous energy and a natural physical resilience. Zara did not shrink from the cold showers or the mandatory pre-dawn runs. Instead, she conquered them. In the rugged wilderness of Scotland, away from the deferential nods of royal staff, Zara learned to rely entirely on her own stamina. There was absolutely no royal pretense with Zara. If you didn't know who her grandmother was, you would never have guessed. She was loud, fiercely competitive, and incredibly funny. In a school like Gordonstown, the other kids will see right through you if you try to hide behind a famous name. Zara didn't need to. She cleaned her own dorm, took her turns doing the dishes, and outran most of the boys on the sports field. She earned her popularity through sheer force of personality. This was the true genius of Princess Anne's parenting strategy. By combining the absence of a royal title with a demanding, merit-based education, she gave Zara a priceless psychological armor. Zara grew up knowing that the world did not owe her a living, nor did it owe her respect. If she wanted to achieve something, she would have to sweat for it, bleed for it, and earn it on the exact same terms as everyone else. In many ways, Zara was living out the unfulfilled freedom of her own mother's youth. Princess Anne had been born too close to the throne, bound by strict mid-century protocols that limited her choices. But in Zara, Anne saw a chance to unleash a new kind of royal woman, one who could look a journalist in the eye, ignore the superficial fluff of high society, and build a life based on tangible, undeniable competence. By the time Zara left Gordonstown with her A-levels in hand, she was sporty, resilient, and utterly unbothered by the expectations of the crown. She was ready to step out of the royal shadow and into her own arena. In the royal courts of Europe, history is written in ink, signed by monarchs, and sealed with wax. But Zara Tindall chose to write her history in the dirt, written with the sweat of intense discipline and the risk of broken bones. To the uninitiated, equestrianism might look like a sport of elite privilege, a gentle hobby for the wealthy. But the discipline of eventing, comprising dressaged, cross-country, and show jumping, is widely considered the most dangerous and physically punishing sport in the Olympic catalog. In this arena, the horses do not care about your lineage. The judges do not award points for royal blood. Out on the course, you are completely alone with a half-ton animal moving at 30 miles an hour toward a solid barrier. It is the ultimate equalizer. The love of horses is coded directly into the genetic makeup of the Windsor family. But for Anne and Zara, it was far more than a royal pastime. It was their avenue to absolute meritocracy. Princess Anne had blazed the trail, becoming the first British royal to compete in the Olympic Games. Yet, her career was haunted by a cruel string of bad luck and devastating injuries to her mounts. History, with brutal symmetry, seemed determined to repeat itself with her daughter. In 2004, and again in 2008, Zara was poised to join the British Olympic team. She was a phenomenally talented young rider, a world and European champion in her own right. But both times, mere weeks before the Games, her legendary horse, Toy Town, suffered heartbreaking chancers. Twice, Zara's Olympic dreams evaporated in tears, matching the exact frustration her mother had endured decades earlier. But resilience is a lesson Zara learned well at Gordonstown. She did not quit. In 2012, on home soil, her moment finally arrived. Riding High Kingdom, Zara delivered a flawless, ice-cold performance under the most suffocating pressure imaginable, clinching the Olympic silver medal for Great Britain. It was a historic triumph, but the crowning moment came during the medal ceremony. It was easily one of the most moving, authentic moments in modern Olympic history. For all of Princess Anne's stiff public exterior, in that moment, she wasn't just a royal official, she was a mother who knew exactly how hard her daughter had bled for that medal. Zara didn't inherit that silver. She didn't get it because she was the Queen's granddaughter. She won it because she was one of the finest athletes on the planet. She had vindicated her mother's choices, and she did it on her own terms. Every family has its rebel, but when you are the granddaughter of the Queen of England, your rebellion is front-page news. Relieved of a formal title, a young Zara Phillips fully embraced the wild, intoxicating freedom of her youth. She partied hard, dated volatile characters, and lived life with a refreshing, sometimes jarring disregard for royal optics. For a time, the press viewed her as a liability to the crown's pristine image. But Princess Anne knew better. She understood that a fire must burn itself out before it can warm a hearth. And in 2003, in a crowded bar on the other side of the world, Zara's chaotic fire collided with a rock. His name was Mike Tindall. You couldn't have scripted a more mismatched, yet utterly perfect couple. Mike was a grammar school boy from the gritty heart of Yorkshire. He was a professional rugby player. He broke bones for a living. He had a crooked nose, a booming laugh, and absolutely zero aristocratic pretense. When he met Zara, he didn't see a royal. He saw a fellow elite athlete who could match him drink for drink, joke for joke, and shared his utter contempt for superficial fluff. They were a match made in sporting heaven. The tabloid media waited eagerly for the relationship to implode, expecting the rough-and-tumble rugby star to be rejected by the palace gates. Instead, the House of Windsor fell in love with him. Princess Anne, a passionate rugby fan herself, recognized in Mike the exact qualities she valued most: unyielding work ethic, absolute honesty, and a total lack of pretense. But more importantly, Mike possessed the one thing Zara needed: a stabilizing force. He did not tame her spirit by locking her away. He grounded her by forcing her to take her immense athletic talents seriously. He became her loudest cheerleader, her rock, and her emotional anchor. In April 2011, the world stopped to watch the epic, full-scale state wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton at Westminster Abbey, a magnificent, heavily choreographed event attended by 2,000 dignitaries and watched by millions. Just 3 months later, Zara showed the world what it meant to be a non-titled royal. Her wedding to Mike was a masterclass in the privilege of the ordinary. There were no carriage processions, no state dignitaries, and no television cameras inside the kirk. It was an intimate, raucous family affair for 400 close friends. Zara didn't need to satisfy a nation. She only needed to marry the man she loved. By choosing simplicity over spectacle, the former royal rebel proved that the finest royal traditions are those kept close to the heart, free from the crushing weight of public expectation. In the modern era, the true strength of a monarchy is measured not by the height of its palace walls or the sheer number of its ceremonial titles, but by its capacity for human connection. As the House of Windsor navigates the most turbulent waters of the 21st century, faced with family rifts, public scrutiny, and the challenging transition into a streamlined, modern institution, the most valuable asset to the crown has turned out to be the woman who was never given a title at all. Zara Tindall has transitioned from the wild, independent rebel of the tabloids into the emotional anchor of the modern royal family. In a world of calculated public relations, she represents something exceedingly rare: absolute, unvarnished authenticity. Nowhere is Zara's presence more vital than in her relationship with her cousin, Prince William. From the dark days following the tragic loss of Princess Diana in 1997, Zara and her brother Peter stood as a protective shield of normalcy around the young princes. For William, a man born to a predetermined destiny and locked inside a rigid, stressful system, Zara is the comedy cousin, the one person who can look past the future king, pull his leg, and bring him completely back down to earth. Their friendship is profoundly authentic because it is entirely free from institutional rivalry. She expects nothing from the crown, which makes her the one person the future monarch can completely, unreservedly trust. More than 40 years ago, Princess Anne made a daring, highly criticized gamble. She stripped her daughter of royal titles, gambling that freedom would breed a stronger, more resilient human being than privilege ever could. Today, that gamble has paid off 1,000 times over. Zara Tindall stands as the ultimate vindication of her mother's vision. She has proven that the finest crown a royal can wear is not one forged from gold and diamonds by a palace jeweler, but one forged from character, built through hard work, and freely given by the affection of the public. In an age that demands authenticity, the princess without a title has become the very definition of modern royalty. She is the anchor of the House of Windsor and the bright dawn of its future.